Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
All right, welcome to the show. It's Clarence Fisher, and this week I've got a treat for you. A guy that's really become a good friend of mine, but also he runs several different businesses, has been listed on for 2 consecutive years. They've been awarded by Inc., right? You have these Inc. 5000 list, and then also this year he was awarded, or I know he'll say his team awarded the best workplaces in there. And I think there was only in the state that we're in, him and one other company. Please welcome to the show this week my good friend Kevin Burr. Kevin, are you there?
Yes, sir. Great, Clarence. Great to be here. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to just sitting down and chatting with you a little bit here, bud.
Absolutely. I appreciate you making it. So tell everyone, what it is that you do and how you're helping people.
Well, I own Barracuda Staffing, Barracuda Consulting, and Red River Payroll. So we're in the human resources business. We are all about people. So some of the things that we do, there's an advanced PDP philosophy that we use. It's an advanced science of understanding and motivating people. It's something that we use with our clients. It helps them for hiring. It helps them for managing, helps them for promoting. It helps them for team building. And it also helps them for communicating. So those are just some of the ways that using that type of hiring philosophy can be really helpful. I've been doing it with my own company for several years and realized just how valuable this was. So I went out and actually got PDP certified. And now I'm actually offering that service to other businesses as well. So it's been amazing for us. Like you said, you listed off a few of the things that we've been recognized for as of recently. And that's just kind of the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot of things. Our culture means everything to us. But it's because we know the people that we have and we know where to place them. It's kind of our philosophy behind it.
That's awesome. So you said the people that you have and where to place them. So when we talk about, what's the difference when they achieve, when they do this PDP as far as the outcome? Well, actually, I guess we should start with telling us what is a PDP, right?
Okay. So it's a Professional DynaMetric Program. It's a survey, not a test. It is a survey that they go through, and it literally takes them maybe 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes tops. They take the survey, answer some questions, pretty easy type questions. We're not talking about algebra or geometry. I mean, this is just basic questions about themselves, how they are viewed, and then how they think others view them. And then when they get down to it, it shoots back a report. Now, this thing has been used since the 1970s, so this isn't new technology. This is actually old science that has been replicated over 5 million times. So it's got quite a long list of things that they've been using it for, and they are able to, for all the factors that are involved, they're able with 96% to be able to get these nailed down. So I've done a bunch of them, and I have never had someone come back and say, you know what, that's just not me. I don't think this survey is right. No, it's usually the exact opposite. It blows their mind how much information we're able to get and convey to them in such a short period of time. But it's based upon the science, and that's why we use it. It really helps someone understanding themselves. I really come from the school of leadership that says, hey, to be able to lead others, you have to be able to lead yourself. I'm also in the same school that to be able to work well with others, you have to be able to understand yourself. And this is how individuals function most naturally, what role individuals feel they need to play, and how individuals can predictably come across to other people. So those are the reasons that we use the science that we use.
Tell us about the difference that makes in a business when you have that.
Well, what it really does for me, it reveals a tangible, objective data for me about my people, and it enables me to fuel the organization's growth. And what I mean by that is when you know the people that you have and you know what they're really good at, and then you know what happens to them when X amount of stress is put on them, you can predictably figure out what programs and what projects you can give to certain individuals. You can also figure out who would work better in side-by-side projects than maybe another couple people in the business. So let me just kind of give you a fair example here. So several years ago, the business was struggling to really grow. I felt like I had some really good people, but it still wasn't growing. And what I figured out was I wasn't putting the right integrators together. So myself, I am someone that is really good at taking off and starting things. I am not, however, one of the people that can come in, attach processes to it, and then be able to finish it. So what I did is I actually promoted up one of my top people that had a PDP that showed that they were able to do consistent processes and that they were able to build them out and that they were able to do that. And when we started working really close hand in hand together, the company really started coming together. So that's just an example of how we've used it. Now we've used it. That's when we had 5 employees. Now we have 18 employees just a few short years later, and growing at obviously you said the Inc. 5000, one of the fastest growing companies. So there is some, it's not just science; it actually does work. So that's the reason why we do it and what we get out of it.
Great. So are there any myths? Like what are the biggest myths surrounding doing testing? Well, surveys like the PDP.
Some of the biggest myths is that, no, people really don't change. Well, people, once they actually start realizing who they truly are and how they operate best, and you're able to put them in those types of scenarios, and then they start seeing success, success breeds some more success. So you continue to do that, they start seeing success, they start wanting to know even more about themselves, and we have very candid conversations about who we are in this business and what our shortcomings are. We are not afraid to talk about where it is that we are not that great. And when we do that, we also find people that say, wow, but I am good at this, so maybe we can work together to make this better. So when you do that, you're very candid. You get to know yourself, then you get to know your people, and then everyone starts working together better. Not only working together better, but they are communicating better. Communication, to me, is the key to almost everything. When you can understand how someone likes to be communicated to and what their most natural style of communicating to someone else is, then you can kind of start understanding people. So one of the people in my organization found out through the PDP that they are more of a teller. And what that means to them is that they have found themselves, when it comes down to them wanting something done, that they tell people what they want done and how they want it done. They didn't know that about themselves. They had never really thought about it in that way, but then they realized that they were coming across as a teller. And when they started looking at other PDPs of the individuals that were in the building and realized that a lot of people don't respond well to being told what to do, they changed up their natural communication style a little bit and were able to relate better to more people. And then all of a sudden, some communications and some relationships got even better with them and had even more success. So I'm more of a seller style. There's several different styles, but those are a couple of the different styles. So if I want somebody to get something done, I'll sell them on the reason why. I'll tell them, I'll kind of sell them on the project and sell them on how that's going to work out best. So those are just a couple of the communication styles, and then you learn how people react to that. And it's a game changer. It really is.
I think in my PDP that you did for me, I ended up being a seller as well. And
correct.
I noticed that there were some things on my PDP that I felt like, man, that's awesome I was surprised at that. That's awesome to know. And then there were some things that I thought, man, I really wanted to be this. You know? So are there any, are there any fears that people have and even in knowing themselves like that?
I think the one that comes out the most, and honestly, it comes out more in our personal lives than it does anywhere else, is it talks about your backup style. And what it talks about in this part of the survey is the backup style refers to what happens to you when you've kind of lost your patience, or that you just feel that what you're doing is just no longer worth the effort anymore. Or maybe you've told someone time and time and time again, and they're just not figuring out. What will happen is your backup style will creep up. And what my backup style tends to be is verbal attack. Now, that doesn't sound great to anybody. I don't know anybody that's like, yeah, I'm a verbal attack. Now, what that means is that you're just going to kind of get to that point of you've lost your sense of patience, and you're just going to lash out and verbally attack. I'm going to interrupt. I'm going to talk too much. I'm going to really just kind of turn into that verbal attack. Now, what I've found is a lot of other people are actually avoid conflict. So if you can imagine how a conversation goes between two individuals, that one is verbal attack and the other one is avoid conflict, the verbal attack is pursuing a conversation, trying to make it happen and talk too much. The avoid conflict can't get away fast enough, but is stuck there with someone that is verbally attacking them. Mm. So it doesn't go well when two people have lost their sense of patience in that. And what we find is that once you know this about yourself, you'll see it in yourself. And when you see it in yourself, it's almost like a ding, ding, ding. Oh my gosh, I see what's happening now. What am I really losing my patience about? Because it could be 1,000 different things. I mean, we all are human beings, and there's stress that comes into life. Generally, it happens more in our personal lives. We'll show that backup stuff more in our personal lives. I'm sure my wife and my kids could attest to that more so than my employees, hopefully. But that's kind of because you're more natural at your residence. You're going to be more natural to show that backup style off. So that's probably the one that most everybody just kind of cringes a little bit when they hear what their backup style is. But that's what happens when you lose your patience. When you just feel it's not worth the effort. Nothing ever good happens when you lose your patience and you feel things aren't worth the effort anymore. So that's probably the one that most people look at and say, "Oh, I wish that wasn't it." But we all have one. It's just there's one that's a dictatorial steamroller. One of my guys found out that they're a dictatorial steamroller, and he was like, "No," and then he realized, "Yes, I am." Oh no! So he has learned through this process, and he's actually requested that his wife now has a scan so that they can work together better in their own personal life. So it can change people for the better in the fact that they just become more self-aware. I think that's just a big key to success, is having some self-awareness.
Totally agree. I think I find even myself now kind of just pull back and try to understand why I felt that way about this situation or wanted or acted that way, about a certain situation. I love one of the things that you've done as far as taking team members' main points of their survey results and actually printing those out for others to see. Is that something you mind sharing at all?
No, absolutely. So one of the things that we're very passionate about is obviously you have to get to know yourself. You have to be able to understand yourself. But in working in such a close-knit group that we work in here is that, our jobs are already stressful enough. We're in the business of dealing with people. We don't have a widget that performs at 100% every single time that we sell that widget. We're in the business of human capital, obviously, that people that we're helping find jobs, companies that are using those resources and everything like that. So unfortunately, our product has a tendency to fail, so that can create high stressful conversations and everything like that. So some of what we do is just to be able to combat that and just to be able to work and keep from having to deal with some overload in that area.
So what do you think are
Did I answer your question? I kind of sounded like I didn't answer your question.
Well, I didn't
answer it for.
I think you did. I think what I saw was you took, specifically when you're talking about how people react when they are losing patience. And if I see at your desk that you are a verbal attacker, then I can probably tell, I've pushed you to lose your patience somehow,
So we put that at everybody's desk for that particular reason, is that it's not just about learning who yourself is, it's learning about your entire team and knowing what your entire team is about. And if you're having any sort of a conflict with someone else, that maybe we can just revert to this PDP survey result here and see where they fall in some of their, and a lot of times we find out that maybe just the communication styles are completely off, or that the way that their logic, the way that they look at things, the way that decisions are being made, they're very factual based for someone that's very feelings based. And those two people just don't quite understand why a feelings based person can't understand why a fact-based person needs time to make a decision, but then a fact-based person has no idea why a feelings-based person feels like they know the answer in less than 2 seconds. Well, it's because they rely on their logic. A feelings-based person says, well, yeah, based upon all my past experiences, I know exactly the answer to this question. Where a fact-based person is like, well, I kind of want to do some research and figure out what is the best way to go about doing this. And neither one really understand each other. So in our business, what we've realized to do is that if we need a quick decision, I'll grab my feelings-based people, I'll pull them in the room and say, hey, what is your gut telling you, everybody? What is the intuition telling you on this? What do I need? But if we're looking at a major change and maybe a software purchase or something of that nature, I'll grab my facts-based people and say, hey, listen, over the next week or so, I want you guys to jump in here and start doing some research on what might be the best for us moving forward software. And let's convene back on Friday and get together, and I'd love to hear what your research tells you. And so at that point, I'm using their best skills and their best way of knowing and building things to be able to move the company forward. So that's one of the ways that I've utilized having, you can call it inside information, whatever, but when you use people's skills to the best of their abilities, they're going to be happier, and happiness tends to create more production. More production provides more opportunity, and more opportunity just provides a great environment because people tend to have a chance to be able to move up and accomplish more goals.
Wow. What do you think are some of the obstacles that keep business owners from seeking this out?
Well, if they actually understood, every business owner is different, but the majority of them look at just hard costs. And they say, okay, the hard cost on this is X. I'm just not going to do that. But if they actually figured out that the cost that they have right now is more in their employee turnover and their employee dissatisfaction, and the fact that they're saying right now that 70 to 80% of all employees out there are actively disengaged at work. And if that number is correct, which I don't necessarily think that it's incorrect, 70% of people are actually going to work trying to figure out something else to do. They said in a study that I looked at that actively disengaged employees cost organizations between $450 and $550 billion every year. That's a lot of money. So if I'm going to be thinking about how I can save myself some money, I'm going to try and figure out how can I create a culture of better employee retention. How can I create a culture of less turnover? How my top management team feels challenged, and if the people that are working for those managers feel like they want to take on the roles and the responsibilities of their managers so that they can best escalate themselves through the business. So if you do that, then you tend to have a culture that does that. And, when people see that you're investing in them, because like I said, there's a lot of stuff on the survey that you hear about that it may not make you a better employee, but it probably is going to make you a better father, better wife, better, husband, whatever it is in your personal life, and that will bleed over into your employment life as well. So I think it's a good idea to always invest in your employees. I try and do it at every chance I get. The more I can invest in them, the greater the return I end up in the long run.
So can you share maybe an example of how you've been able to help a company, overcome that? You talk about culture and overcoming the obstacles of, I don't want to say a toxic culture, but definitely maybe it's not how they would want it.
So I recently just met with a team. They're in the construction industry, property management type stuff, and they were talking. And I asked them, I said, the first question I said, so how much has your hiring process or lack thereof over the last several years cost you? And the first automatic answer is like, well, I have no idea. And I'm like, well, how many people are here today that were here 3 years ago? And they all kind of looked around the room. And this is about a 24-person company, so it's not, too crazy to be able to figure out. And they kind of figured out that almost 50% of the people in their business were not around 3 years ago, and that they've had that much turnover during that time. And then I asked him, I said, well, how much do you think that turnover has cost you now that you know the number? What are your people making in this business, and how much does it cost? Because generally it's going to cost you more money than what you actually paid the individual because of lost opportunity, lost relationships, lost work. If you could have retained good employees, what would that do for you guys? And they just looked at me and said that would have been a game changer for us if we would have done this 3 years ago. If we would have been able to start changing our culture and have greater retention. One guy said, I know off the bat 3 guys that have left to go work for other places that has been super successful, and that we lost them because our culture wasn't as good as the places that they went. So one of the things that I can tell you with absolute certainty right now, employees are looking not only for financial compensation, because most everybody thinks these days that, you have to be paid, but not everybody is motivated by that. Some people are motivated by security. Some people are motivated by stability. Some people are motivated by happiness. Some people are motivated by opportunity. So really learning what people are motivated by and understanding those motivations allows you to reward those employees and thus creating a better culture. And that's one of the things that comes on the surveys that we post in everybody's space here. So I can walk around in a matter of 10 minutes, I can figure out, okay, I really want to reward this person. I'm not quite sure. I know exactly how I can reward them. I'll go and look and make sure that I am meeting all their motivators. And if I'm meeting all their motivators, then a nice gift card or something like that might be appropriate. But what I used to do was give gift cards out to everyone. And I found one time when I was looking for a pair of scissors, one of my employees was gone, opened up her top drawer, and there was a stack of gift cards there that she had never even used. Next day she comes in and I said, hey, those gift cards that I've given you, I came across them yesterday when I was looking for scissors. Have you ever used those? And she just looked at me and said, no. And I said, was that ever really a good reward for you then? And she was like, no, I guess not. And it was just a game changer for me to realize that I was rewarding someone based upon my own ideas of what a reward should have been. And when I found out that she really just wanted a pat on the back and told that she was doing a great job and given the sense of security and stability that she was going to be around and that we had plans to help her with opportunity, that when I started doing that for her, you could tell that was the reward that she was wanting all along. So that was a game changer for me, learning that. And it's something that if you can learn what truly motivates your people, you can always make your company go better.
And sounds like save some money.
Yes. Yeah. I wanted to take those things back. I told her, I said, why don't you start regifting these things or something?
Right. So, Kevin, what inspired you to get into consulting like this?
Being in the staffing industry for almost 15 years, I came across companies on a regular basis that I was staffing for that unfortunately I was doing really well off their company, but it was only because they were having such turnover that they were using me on a regular basis. And it wasn't the people that I was providing, because they were all telling me, man, the people you provide are top notch. They're great. they just, they end up leaving. Well, when I finally started having some candid conversations with companies and say, hey, listen, you realize that people don't leave companies, that they usually leave supervisors and they leave cultures. That was very eye-opening to a lot of them. Some of them didn't want to hear it, I'll be honest with you. And others said, well, what can we do about that? And when we started going down the road of what can we do about that, that's how Barracuda Consulting was born. So we go in, we do a full HR diagnostic on a company, look at employee handbooks, policy designs, what kind of trainings they're offering, design and implementation of an onboarding process, what type of recruiting and hiring they're doing, how their payroll is actually done is a big thing. Like I said, I own a payroll company, but some companies are actually still working in the Stone Age about how they pay people. People want to have access to their money easily and quickly, and they want to be able to look at it and not have to open up a pay stub. Pre-employment screenings, time and attendance solutions, unemployment, workers' comp claims, how that's affecting their businesses, employee benefits, whether or not they were state-of-the-art or severely lacking, wage and salary surveys, looking at how they're paying their people. Job descriptions. It's pretty simple that if you're not fishing with the right bait, you're never going to catch what you want to catch. So if your job descriptions aren't up to date and attractive to someone, that's something that you'd be missing out on as well. We do some employee surveys. We do some culture building by analyzing and summarizing certain things. Employee relations and retention. We look at some conflict resolution strategies. Performance reviews. If you're still in the Stone Age and you're doing a one-year performance review, you're way behind. Nobody wants to wait an entire year to find out whether or not they're doing well or not. They want to be actively engaged in the process and be told on a regular basis how they're doing. We even go over employee discipline and dismissals. It's a policy development thing on how you can work with people or not work with them moving forward and make sure how you get out of that. Teach them how to do exit interviews so that you get the information you need to not make that problem moving forward. People are very honest when they're no longer working for your company, and they know they're on their way out. So they'll be really honest with you and tell you, hey, you really do have a problem in this department. So employee motivations, engagement programs, how do we get that? Workplace wellness programs, we institute that. We do that even here at our own office. We have wellness weeks where we all work on certain things. We talk about succession planning, organizational development, any sort of legal compliance that might need to happen. And then we do a ton of trainings. That's one of the things that we're doing a ton of right now. Cultural competency training is one of the things that we're doing a lot of, just understanding a cross-cultural environment. Harassment training, how to deal with that, EEO training. Hiring workshops, multi-generational workforce is a big one. Right now we have almost 5 generations that are in the workforce. And how do you work with those 5 different generational type people in the same area? Diversity inclusion training, we do lunch and learns, and then we just do anything else that is necessary, anything that we can do to help save time and money. We eliminate the need for a full-time HR team because we can create a package just for them.
Did you said 5 generations? I know.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
It's not out of all of that. I got 5 generations, but I know when you said 5 generations, I thought, wow, trying to communicate with that many different belief systems.
So you've got your baby boomers who are on their way out. Most of them are retiring or getting close to retirement age, but they're definitely in the workforce. A lot of them are in leadership roles still within the environment. And then you've got, right after that, you've got generation, I'm going to butcher this one. I think it's X, and then generation Y, and then generation Z. You have millennials in there as well, and then you have the digital natives, and I think they're generation Z. They're called digital natives. They're the youngest one. So we've all heard about millennials. People have actually made punchlines and jokes out of them. I actually employ a bunch of millennials here in my office, and they're phenomenal. You just have to know what type of environment and culture you want to create for a millennial to do well within your organization. We're very community-oriented. We do a lot of community stuff, and that's something that the people that work here are very engaged in. In fact, they do a lot of volunteering and help out a lot of different groups. I was giving a speech the other day and realized that I sat down and looked at all the different, we've given to over 75 different causes during the time that we've been in business here. And that's something I'm pretty proud of. That's time and money and everything else that we do as well. So we try and do that, but understanding that. And then the digital natives are actually the newest generation. I have a talk almost daily with hiring managers regarding this, what the difference is between a digital native and that of the millennials.
I had no idea about digital natives, so we'll save that for another one. But yeah, I didn't even know that existed. But I can definitely. They're
graduating from high school right now. They've never lived in a universe for which there wasn't digital information.
That is crazy. I was at, I think it was your office, and one of your team members was saving their password in Google. And I remember I said, you're gonna let Google save your password? She said, yeah, I probably shouldn't, but I mean, I grew up with this. And, I'm like, oh, well, I feel old now. But
yeah, I had one where I did an interview about, it was earlier this year. And I asked, one of the questions I asked during an interview is, hey, tell me where you would go to find the information if you ever ran into a problem or question that you didn't have the answer. And what I was generally looking for was, hey, try and find another teammate or something like that. But the answer to the question that this young lady gave was, well, that's easy. I just go to Google. They've been around forever.
Forever?
And me being 41 was like, forever? They didn't even have computers when I was first around.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Google is not, and it just made me remember real quick, like, oh, multi-generation workforce. They think Google's been around forever. And so, I asked, hey, have you ever heard of an encyclopedia? And they said, yeah, I think it's a big book, but I don't know what to choose for.
Oh, man.
And same goes with a dictionary. And, well, why would you do that? You got spell check. Okay. So it's a different world that we're working in, for sure.
That's awesome. So, Kevin, what's the most important question as we're closing here? I know we're coming up on time, but what's the most important question that a business owner should ask themselves as they consider taking a PDP type survey here?
How well do you know yourself would be the first question. Like I said, I come from a long line of leadership. I study it. I think it's one of the most important things you can possibly do as a business owner. But if you don't know yourself, you can never lead others. So learn yourself so you can lead others is a big thing. And then find out what works for you in your environment. We have certain roles within our organization that it takes someone that has high detail and has the ability to follow processes. I would not do well in that role. That is not who I am, and that's not. So if someone were to come back with a PDP that looks like mine, honestly, we'd probably pass on them, or we would consider them for another position within the organization. That has happened several times where we've just really liked someone, we interviewed them, the PDP came back after the initial interview, we looked at it and said, you know what, they're not going to fit for this role because of this or this, but we have an additional role that's coming up, and we're going to consider them for that. So that's worked out several times. If you don't know your people, how are you ever going to lead them? So that's why the PDP is so valuable. Getting to know your people. One of the things I was talking with a gentleman yesterday, and he has 260 people in his organization, and he's at the top. And I was talking to him about this, and he said, well, how in the world am I going to be able to use PDP? I can't possibly know 260 different PDPs. And I said, yeah, you're right. I would never ask you to do that. But there's got to be at least 10 that you're blown away with that are just phenomenal employees in the departments that they work in. And that if you had 10 more just like them, you would do even better. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I could. And he started rattling off names of the people that he would like to clone, basically. And I said, well, that's what PDP will allow for you. We can give them a PDP, start finding out what their strengths are, what they bring to the table, and then we can actually go out and create a recruiting process to find those types of people for you. He was blown away, and we've got a meeting with him next week to sit down and look at how that's going to work for him and his organization. But he said, yeah, I never thought of it that way. That would be a game changer for us. So
beautiful. And when they're looking for a HR consultant, is that what you call? Is that what you call yourself? Is an HR consultant, or is that? Yeah,
we're human resource consultants at the end of the day.
Okay, all right. So when somebody's evaluating that or considering evaluating consultants, what should they be? What's the most important thing to look for there? Most everybody will point towards, hey, you want somebody with a bunch of experience.
That's not what I believe. I think a lot of times people with a lot of experience tend to lean on tried and true practices that they've always followed. So everyone's going to get the same results. So I'm going to give them the same cookie cutter program. Whereas with us, we are fully customizable to every single employer that we come across. Not everybody needs the same thing. So we don't offer a box program like, hey, for this much money, you can get this, this, and this, but not anything else. Well, that doesn't make any sense. 1 and 2 might be great for them, but 3 is completely not even needed. So we fully customize everything that we do. We work with small and medium-sized businesses, some that have an HR department and some that have no HR department. We help to streamline the businesses and processes, and then get very specialized in the questions that they need answered and things that they need to get done.
So how does somebody find out more about you and your company?
Well, they could reach out to us either directly by calling us at 918-216-9214, or as most people do these days, they jump online, and that's Barracuda, Barracuda Consulting.com. That's the easiest way to check us out. Obviously, reach out to us. Everything is free when we come out and first meet with you to begin with. We don't know if you have any issues or if there's anything we can help you out with. So that's why we do the free HR diagnostic, where we come out and review some stuff with you, have some conversations to see what your needs are, and then we can sit down and build out a customized package that will help. A lot of people are under the impression that, hey, anytime someone says the word consultant, that it means it costs a lot of money. But one thing I can tell you for sure is that when it comes to the HR world, most business owners are a little apprehensive to use things because HR, quite honestly, is not a profit center for most companies. And I get that. I understand that. And so it's not sexy to go out and work on your HR. So once again, I said, I understand that. I get that. But to have the peace of mind to be able to lay your pillow on the head at night, to know that your HR policies are up to date, and that your company is working fairly and legally in all aspects of what they do, will keep your company afloat. There's one thing that HR will do, and if you don't abide by it and you don't pay attention to it, it will cause you your company in overnight. So that's one thing that I make sure people are aware of, is that I understand it's not a profit center, but it also could be the reason why your company could get shut down if you don't pay attention to it. So it's one thing that we're very passionate about, is making sure people understand how we can help them in that area.
Awesome. Good deal. Kevin, thanks for taking time out. I know for sure firsthand how busy you are and all the companies that you're running and everything that you're doing in the community. And I just appreciate you stopping by and sharing with us today.
Well, obviously, you know how much I value our friendship, and that nothing will ever change about that. And I just appreciate everything that you do for the community as well, how significant you've been in my life, and just looking forward to continuing that on as well.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. Well, that's it for this week's show. So, you know what we say, own the block.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.